Welcome to Chasing Winners, your number one show for all DFS gambling-related sports talk. As always, I'm your host, Ryan Baumohl, Gambling DFS Tips on Twitter. Kyle Mastoloni, K Mastoloni on Twitter. Kyle, what's up?
What's up, everybody? Wish the Giants still had this guy here, Eli Manning, to lead us to a win last week, but couldn't do it for him on his day.
We'll get into that in a second, but I think it's better that they just kill your hopes at the beginning of the season instead of dragging you guys on like they do sometimes. Speaking of that, we have Viking fan JP on Twitter, JP Lyon. JP, what's up?
I'm a fan of a great college football team. I'm a fan of a decent NFL football team. I'm back to positive JP this week.
Who did I tell you was going to win the Vikings game last week?
You did. Yes, you told me that the Vikings would win the game. Yes.
And who won the game?
The Vikings won the game.
See? Just stay on my good side. I'll keep picking the Vikings. You guys might go, 14-3, something like that this year. Kyle, I'll start with you. You were there. It was Eli Manning Day. This is going to pain me to say, and this isn't even like troll me saying that. This is like kind of like real me saying this. I think the Jets are still a level below the Giants, but the Giants are pretty damn close to the Jets. I mean, the state of New York football right now they are arguably the two worst teams in football.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we just lost to the team who I thought was the second worst team in football. So, I mean, now we have to be the second worst, right, at 0-3. We just lost Blake Martinez this week as well for the season. So, things aren't looking good. That was pretty much our only hope on defense, too. So, it's all downhill from here, it seems like.
So here's something I saw on Twitter, and I rarely kind of go into these because I think these are kind of stupid, but I think this is a good instant. Let's say the Giants start 1-8. Something 2 and whatever, like something real bad. Is there a point of the season where when they're like just so far out of it that you're like, let's not play Saquon the rest of the year? Like he's played 12 games, let's just not have him take these hits for the last 6 games. Is that something realistic that as a Giants fan, if the Giants did that, you'd be like, makes sense?
I mean, I wouldn't blame them at all with his injury issues. So there's always a chance he hurts something every game, essentially. So I would pull him. Yeah.
JP, the Vikings won last week. Where's your stance on the Vikings now?
It feels like we have an elite offense right now, and that's not something I'm used to saying. I think that victory was more of the Seahawks not knowing how to play a second half at all this year. But it looked like we have a team, and it looked like we can win games this year.
So I'm going to put you guys on the spot now. You guys obviously are both fans of NFC teams. I'm a fan of an AFC team. So let's go through. I'll rank, you can either rank or just give whatever the top 5 AFC teams, whether in order or just in terms of, not right now, in terms of, in your mind, from what you've seen so far, the most likely to be a Super Bowl winner. So top 5 in the AFC, and then I'll go through and I'll do the NFC after. You guys can kind of talk it out and kind of do it together. I mean, I think, what do you guys think?
I still can't get rid of the Chiefs from that list. I mean, I know it's been a tough start for them, but they're definitely still one of the 5. Not sure if they're number 1 necessarily, but they're definitely still one of the 5 there.
Yeah, I put Chiefs. Bills have got to be there. I'm sure you'll make me include the Ravens.
You tell me if you think the Ravens are. I mean, they barely beat the Lions on the road. I can't argue if you said they're not a top 5 team.
The Ravens should be 1-2 and have worse losses than the Chiefs.
Somebody said, I saw a tweet on that game. Somebody said that game was perfect because the Ravens are one of those teams that always finds way to win games, and the Lions always find ways to lose games. It's just like when these two kind of teams play, it's just like if it's close, you just like the Ravens win these games, the Lions lose these games. The Ravens had no business winning that game. The Lions had no business being in that game, and then once they were, the Ravens had no business winning it, and that was just. I mean, that's been this Ravens story all year. You know, from the Raiders game to the Chiefs game to this game, it's just they could be 0-3, they could be 3-0. But so where are you guys at? Chiefs, Bills.
Ravens. I'd probably put Ravens in there.
Ravens have to be there.
I'd probably say Titans because they're going to win their division.
God, and then that 5th team is a disaster to choose right now in the AFC.
I'll give you one that I think you guys are missing. I think it's Cleveland.
I was gonna say Cleveland or Denver.
Yeah. I mean, you have to choose either Cleveland or one of the two 3-0 teams that no one's expected. But yeah, I'd probably still say Cleveland.
I think Cleveland's going to benefit that Pittsburgh may not be a normal Pittsburgh, and the Ravens I think are still going to be good, but I don't think they're going to be what they've been under Lamar, which is 14-2. You know what I mean? I don't think they're going to be something like that. So I think the Browns can benefit from that. The Bengals are obviously better, but I think if you were to ask the Browns, they'd rather the Bengals be a little better and the Ravens and Steelers not be, the normal Ravens and Steelers. If we're going through the NFC right now, this is kind of hard because I think realistically you could put all 4 NFC West teams in that conversation. Obviously, they're not going to all make the playoffs because you've got to win a division and then the wild cards. But in terms of ranking them, I'm going to say I think the Rams are the best team in football. So the Rams have to be number 1. I think it's the Rams. I still think it's the Bucs because they have Brady. This is going to surprise a lot of people, but I think the Seahawks are still in that conversation. I think they're good enough that with Russell Wilson as their quarterback and Russell Wilson playing invested, I think that's always kind of, when I'm looking at these teams that are so close to each other, I think that's kind of always the deciding factor is the quarterback. Can the quarterback win a Super Bowl? Russell Wilson's proved he can win a Super Bowl. He proves he can win big games. I think Seattle's good enough. I'm going to put them in that conversation. Staying along those lines, the MVP last year, Aaron Rodgers, another good week last week. I think the Packers are back to a Super Bowl contender. I don't know if they're maybe as good as the Rams or the Bucs are right now, but I think the Packers are kind of right in that range below. And then I was going to ask you guys for that 5th team. I think it's a little tough. I think when you're looking from a perspective, I think the Cowboys could be in that conversation. But I also wouldn't be surprised if in 5 weeks we're looking back at the Cowboys being like, remember when how good the Cowboys were? Because the Cowboys will always be the Cowboys, I feel like.
I'd almost rather put the Cardinals ahead of the Cowboys.
Yeah, I agree.
I'd still probably put the Cardinals ahead of the Niners because I don't trust the Niners. So yeah, I'd probably put the Cardinals in the 5th spot there.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's tough. Go ahead, Kyle.
I was just gonna say, whoever comes out of the West, we assume it's gonna be at least 2 teams that come out of there. At least I would say. I would say they're gonna be 1 and 3. I mean, Tampa's number 2 still on my list. Then the second team out of the West, then Green Bay. And then
and I think like you were saying, I think that's going to kind of come down to the only way that there isn't 2 or even 3 teams to come out of that division is if the Rams run away with everything and then everyone else just starts beating up on everybody. I think that's kind of the only way that it's, maybe they're all then kind of in that same range as a couple other teams. But let's get into this week. Let's just go over the games this week. We can go over some recaps from last week. We kind of already went over the games that you guys are a fan of, but we'll kind of just recap those games as we're going through this week. But as always, before we get into this week's games, if you guys could, whatever platform you guys are listening or watching on, make sure you guys subscribe, like, rate, review. It all helps us out. It, however that algorithm works, it helps us and keeps us being able to kind of give you guys this, what we call fun, enjoyable information. But hopefully some of it's informative and the others just entertainment and just here as part of your weekly listening. But let's get into the bets or the games this week, I should say. We're recording this on Wednesday for the first time, so we can go through this Thursday night game in full. The Jags are at the Bengals. The Bengals are, what are they? The Bengals are a 7.5-point favorite. This over-under is 46. Kyle, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I mean, we got the battle between the last 2 number 1 picks here. I mean, 7.5 just seems like a line that I don't really want to touch on this game. The Bengals could easily not cover there, especially with T. Higgins out. They're losing a weapon on offense there. But I'm gonna go with the total here. I'm gonna stick with what's been a trend this season so far. Primetime games going over. What's the record now? I think it's like 8-1 or something.
8-1 probably, minus that Thursday night last week.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go over. I'm gonna go over 46 on this game.
JP.
I'm gonna do the same. I don't like 7.5 here. I would assume the Bengals cover it because I don't trust Trevor Lawrence, but I would assume that Burrow can throw for 3 scores and Mixon's gonna have 1 or 2. So I'm gonna take the over here.
So this game is for sure going under because I'm taking the over as well, like the over 46.
Yeah, there it goes.
For the official pick, we were talking about this before. So for the official pick, I'm going to have the over 46. But I'm going to have two best bets on this game because I think the over 46, I think that's a great bet. But I mean, the Bengals are still the Bengals, and they can't be laying 7.5, especially without T. Higgins. I mean, the Jaguars can really suck. I think this is kind of a get-right game for the Jaguars, and when I say a get-right game, I think we saw a couple times last week Trevor Lawrence looked like the number 1 overall pick. The touchdown he threw to, I don't know who caught the first one, Laviska Shenault maybe? Maybe it was to Shenault. Can't remember who it was to. Dropped it right over the safety into the corner of the end zone. It was kind of that throw we were used to seeing him make at Clemson, that kind of back shoulder fade in between the linebacker and the safety. So I think Lawrence is going to be kind of one of those guys. People forget that nowadays, I mean, rookie quarterbacks never used to start. I mean, maybe the top, like, if you're a top 1, 2, 3 pick. I mean, Trey Lance, there's still a chance he's going to become the best quarterback out of this crew, and he's the one that's not even starting right now. And I think we got to remember that because we always talk about Peyton Manning had the most interceptions his rookie year. Still had some successes, but at the end of the day, Peyton Manning ended up becoming one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. So if we're going to just see, I think as a Jaguars fan, if you're looking at Lawrence, you're looking at the progressions. It is what he was doing poor at the beginning of the season and still now, does that progress over the season? When he plays these worst teams, is he playing better and seeing, obviously the defenses, there's more, whether it's a foot, 2 feet, whatever it is of separation between the receivers, a lot of times there's going to be more separation, with these worst defenses than the other teams. So the question is Lawrence looking better against these teams? He's still going to struggle against some of the top teams. But I think that's what you're looking for in terms of him. And I think we saw some of that last week. I think he takes another step forward this week. And like I said, the Bengals just shouldn't be 7.5-point favorites. At the end of the day, they're still the Bengals. Kyle said it. T. Higgins is out. You could argue he's their number 1 receiver, whether it's him or Jamar Chase. It's probably T. Higgins. But yeah, so officially for the pod, I'll take the over 46. But I'm going to have two best bets with that and the Jags plus 7.5. Let's go the Washington football team at the Falcons. JP, I'll start with you so we don't have to start with some Kyle misery where he's talking about how the Falcons – I mean, the Falcons winning that game that was I don't know how the Falcons won that game. I mean, it was just very classic Giants. I think that's how you have to look at this week, JP. Are you saying the Falcons – was that a turning point for them in the season, or are the Giants just that bad? The Falcons, they're a 2-point dog at Washington football team, or they're at home against Washington football team. They're a 2-point dog. That over-under is 47. What are your thoughts here, JP?
It feels like the games last week for both of these teams were more of a fluke to me. It is the matchup of 2 of the 3 teams that have beaten the Giants this year, and the football team, their defense is not good. It's the second worst defense in the league, but it's not as bad as it was last week, and Matt Ryan is not Josh Allen this year. So I'm going to lean the football team here -2. Definitely not best bet for me, but yeah, I'm just going to roll with the football team and hope Heineke pulls it out.
Kyle.
So, I mean, I can't believe I'm saying this. Obviously, I watched both teams play in full. I watched the whole Giants game and then the whole game disaster of a game last week as well. I mean, I think the Falcons actually, they didn't impress me, but I think they looked better in the process of playing the Giants than Washington did, just because, I mean, Washington gave up 29 points to Daniel Jones. I mean, should have given up more at that point. I mean, the defense was just porous. Daniel Jones made them look terrible. Yet we still found a way to drop passes and lose that football game like we always do. So I'm actually leaning Atlanta +2 at home here. Give me the 2 points at home with with 2 of the worst teams in football playing each other here.
How about the Giants losing their top 6 receivers on like the first 2 plays of the game? I mean, I looked up, it was like Slayton out for the game, Shepard out for the game, Saquon was limping on the sideline. It's like what? How, Kyle? How? Do we get a new trainer in there? Let's do something. Let's get these guys healthy.
Yeah, I mean, we got to do something. Saquon limping on the sideline again. He just came back from a season-ending injury last year. Like, we got to keep him healthy. We got to keep our whole team healthy somehow. And Blake Martinez is out for the year.
I would say Blake Martinez that's the one difference because that's a torn ACL. He's out for the year. The other guys, it's hamstrings, it's groins, it's things like that. Like at least with the Ravens, like at least when we're getting hurt, we're just blowing fucking ligaments out and we are just out for the year. Like it's not even close. Achilles gone, ACL's gone. We're finding knee ligaments to blow. I mean, at least when we're doing it, you guys are just. It's kind of the classic Giants thing. It's like, oh, a hamstring injury, he'll be out for 3 or 4 weeks. It's like, oh, he'll probably come back, he'll play 3 quarters, and then he'll be out for another 3 or 4 weeks. But yeah, I'm gonna take the Washington football team here. I just think that this is one of those games where it's like instead of just kind of going through the X's and O's of football, I just trust my gut here, and this just seems like a game Ron Rivera wins. Ron Rivera finds a way to win this game for the football team. If he does, it's a 2-point favorite. Obviously, the only way you don't hit this is if they win by 1, which is for sure a possibility. But at the end of the day, I don't love it, but Washington football team -2, that's going to be my pick for the podcast. Kyle. Houston at Buffalo. Buffalo is a 16.5-point favorite. That over-under is 47. Hit me.
I mean, Buffalo finally found their groove last week, right? Hitting 43 points against Washington. Josh Allen absolutely popped off there. I mean, I'm looking at this over 47. I think it's a little too low. I think we should be in the 50s here with the way Buffalo played last week. The only issue is obviously the Houston side, if they could do their part, but they might not even have to if Buffalo puts up like 35 on them.
JP?
So this is a lot of points. 16.5, a lot of points. Easily the highest spread of the week. I've actually picked both of the Bills games the last 2 weeks correctly. I just didn't realize that. But I had over 46 last week. I said Josh Allen needed a breakout game, and that was it. So I'm going to go over 47 again and hope that he continues. Still riding that 10-1 Josh Allen MVP pick from the preseason pop.
I'm going to side with Kyle here. I think this over. I think this number's a little too low. I think when you look at last week, I know, but yours reasoning was a little different. I'm going to go with Kyle's reasoning, JP. It's always got to be about him. It's always got to be about him. Unbelievable.
We're a happy family right here, all on the over.
So I think the number's too low, and I think when you're looking at it for the reason of you can kind of somewhat throw out last week in terms of Houston. I know I don't want to throw out last week because Davis Mills, but the Panthers are a much better defense than we thought they were going to be this year. And I think when you're looking at what Houston's given up, they gave up obviously 24, I think it was, or 25 to the Panthers. They gave up 30 to Cleveland. They gave up 20, I think, to Jacksonville, 24 to Jacksonville, something like that. So, like, if we're looking at that, like JP said, which I was getting to JP's point after, but he didn't let me get there. JP said, is I think Buffalo, I think they can put up 35 by themselves. I think the 16.5 is probably a good number, but like he said, I think it's just a little too big for you to have to cover that with Buffalo. And I think if you're just, hey, Buffalo's going to cover the 16.5, there's a very limited range of what they'll cover the 16.5 and not hit this over. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. I'm going to take the over 47 as well. So 2 out of the first 3 games are for sure going under since we're all in the over. All right, JP, you are the NFC North fan. The Lions are at the Bears. The Bears are a 3-point favorite. The over-under is 42. I'll let you talk because finally I think the Vikings are the second best team in this division, whether it's by default or not.
Well, it's about damn time we've reached this point. This is where we've been at for at least half of the last decade. But I do think this is a bounce back spot for the Bears. They're not as bad as they were last week unless they keep calling plays like that, in which case they are that bad. But I'm on the Bears -3. This is one of my best bets this week. I don't like doing it. I don't like the Bears. I don't want Fields to do great. But I don't like the Lions. I don't think they're good. And I think the Bears are better than they looked last week. So give me the Bears.
Kyle?
I mean, the only way to go for Justin Fields and the Bears is up from last week. I mean, what a disastrous first start that was for him. I mean, do we know who's the starting quarterback this week? I know there's been some chatter.
I'm hoping for Foles.
There's a 3 or 4 QB battle I've been hearing, but
I think it'll be Fields. I think it'll end up being Justin Fields.
Okay, I mean,
I really hope Nick Foles is the starter.
Do you know who their 3 highest paid players are?
Because you said that, I'm guessing it's Foles.
It's Nick Foles, it's Allen Robinson, which is justified. Allen Robinson should be one of your higher paid players. And
Mac?
no,
Mac?
it's Jimmy Graham.
Oh, for the love of.
So two of their top 3 guys in terms of salary. I think it's per year. I think it's where they are in Jimmy Graham's salary. I mean, Jimmy Graham, I think he played like 6 snaps last. He played like something like he made the stat. I think it was is he made 110,000 per snap last week, like something like that. Like that's sign me up.
Yeah,
6 times I'll run over the middle and you can wreck me for 6 times for $110,000. I'll take that.
All he had to do was retweet that one tweet of the yards per play.
Yeah. Everyone's like, oh, Jimmy's not happy. It's like, no, I think we knew Jimmy wasn't happy when Jimmy's not playing at all. I think that's when we knew Jimmy wasn't happy.
So
go ahead.
Back to just me. Same thing as JP here. I think it's a bounce back game for them. Like I said, there's nowhere to go but up for Justin Fields from last week. At least he got his worst out of the way quickly. So I'm going Chicago -3 here.
I'm gonna take the Lions +3. I don't love it. It won't be a bet for me, but it'll be an official pick for the pod. I just think it's just 2 teams that are kind of in a similar spot. I can for sure seeing it be a bounce back spot, and if one team's going to win this game handily, I think it's going to be the Bears. But I also don't think the Lions are as bad as we think. They've shown that they compete for Dan Campbell, that they're out of these games and they stay in these games, especially like last week. They had no business being in that game. They fought back. I think the other important thing that we're seeing is we saw it with Rodgers on Sunday night after he got them into field goal range and he kind of gave a little fist bump. Jared Goff, after he came back and put the Lions ahead, you saw on the sideline, he kind of gave a little like, let's go, guys. Like, and I like to see that out of Jared Goff because Jared Goff, I think, is always going to be that guy that's going to be, I don't want to say underappreciated because I do think Sean McVay got the best out of Jared Goff. But we're acting like Jared Goff is this guy that walked off the street and like Sean McVay like turned like a random homeless guy into like a halfway decent quarterback. Like Jared Goff is still a good quarterback. Jared Goff is still, the arm strength is what got him to the NFL. And when you get the decision making right and you get the timing right, the arm strength is what keeps you in the NFL. And when we get to the Eagles later, we can talk about that with Jalen Hurts, how that might be the downfall of him. But I like to see Jared Goff still involved, still not just out there going through the motions, because you move from LA to Detroit. I mean, people don't even think about that. It's like it's a change of lifestyle. It's just to see him still invested in kind of looks like he almost has a chip on his shoulder. Like, hey, like Detroit hasn't been any good, and I know that. And everyone's saying that I'm not going to be any good without McVay. So maybe it's not this year, but if we can start building something and if we can maybe get something in a year or two, I think Jared Goff is potentially trying to be in that position to be like, hey, like I'll be the Lions quarterback in the future. Whether it's for the next 3 years, 4 years, something like that. I just think that he's kind of maybe made up that mindset like, hey, like I'm going to get the Lions back to the playoffs. Like we're going to get back to the playoffs and it's going to be like, remember Jared Goff got into the playoffs. It wasn't just all Sean McVay. Whether that starts this week or not, who knows? But like I said, I just like to see him and the team invested for Dan Campbell. So I'll take the Lions +3 for that. Carolina at Dallas. The Cowboys are a 4-point favorite. That over-under is 50.5. Kyle, what are your thoughts?
So the Panthers defense is finally getting tested here. I mean, Jets. And then Jameis Winston played like the worst game of his life. He's had a lot of bad games, but definitely up there. And then the Texans last week with Mills. So we haven't really seen them play a truly elite offense yet. And here's the test in the Cowboys. I mean, they're putting up points. They're doing exactly what we expected of them on offense. And then defense is once again exactly what we expected of them. Not very good. So I'm actually gonna go. I think they passed the test. I'm gonna go Panthers +4 here. Give me the points on the undefeated team with the great defense.
JP.
I think this is recency bias as far as the spread. We haven't seen Panthers since last Thursday. We just saw the Cowboys look really good. Try to discount the Panthers' opponents maybe. And maybe that's how we ended up at -4. I'm not buying it. I'm still sticking with the Panthers +4. Give me Chuba Hubbard. Give me Sam Darnold. Forgot who the quarterback was for a second. And I'm going to take the Panthers against that defense rather than Dak versus the Panthers defense.
Yeah, so I like the Panthers +4 here as well. I'm going to have, but that's not going to be my official pick. So don't worry. I am going to actually make it a best bet but it's not going to be my official pick because I do have 2 best bets on this game as well. My official pick for this game, I like the Carolina-Dallas over 50.5. We've seen Carolina's defense has been good. They've been efficient. Maybe they struggle slightly offensively without Christian McCaffrey, but Chuba Hubbard, I think he kind of steps right in. I think Darnold's looked good. I think maybe this is a bounce back week for like a Robbie Henderson. We've seen what DJ Moore's already done. I think they have some weapons, and obviously we've seen how many points the Cowboys have put up all year. So I'm going to go Carolina-Dallas over 50.5. I'm going to make that a best bet, and I'm also going to make Carolina +4 a best bet. And do some line shopping because I've even seen Carolina +4.5, +5 somewhere else. If it's +5, it might get up to 6 by game time. If you're getting Carolina +6, that's an auto bet almost. Yeah, I mean, if you're going to get more points with the Panthers than you are with the Eagles, I mean, how do you not take that? That's kind of how you have to look at that. All right, JP. The Colts at the Dolphins. Dolphins a 2-point favorite. That over/under is 42. Who bounces back this week?
I think the offense has bounced back this week. What was the score last week of the Dolphins game? I've already forgotten.
31-28.
Yeah.
Oh, they scored points. Yeah. Okay. Cool. The overseas
went
low.
to overtime.
Yeah. Well, that didn't hurt it. Yeah. I do think the total's low. 42 for this game doesn't seem right to me. I'm hoping Carson Wentz has learned how to play with sprained ankles now, as opposed to not. But I'm gonna roll with the over 42 here, betting on Wentz and Brissett. Go me.
Kyle.
I mean, yeah, we got a good performance out of Jacoby Brissett last week, so much better bounce back for him from that terrible Buffalo game. But these are 2 teams that I can't quit on. If you've been following every week, I think I've bet I've bet both of them every single week so far. So it's gonna be it's a tough decision for me of 2 teams that I always thought were underrated, but turns out they just suck. So I'm gonna go Indy. I'm gonna go Indy +2 here. I'm gonna take the points. If I'm gonna give up on one team out of these 2, it's gonna be the Dolphins with Jacoby Brissett there. So I'm gonna go Colts +2 here.
I was going to go Colts +2 here too, but I once again think this number is just too low. JP brought it up. I mean, 42 is this the lowest total of the week?
Yeah.
It is the lowest total of the week.
With the Lions and Bears.
Is that? Oh yeah, the Lions and Bears 42 as well.
Yep.
So, and if you're telling me that one of these games is much more likely to go over at the exact same number, it's going to be this than the Lions and the Bears. So I just think this number should be 43, 44. 43.5, somewhere in that range. So I'm going to stick this over 42 as well on my card for the podcast. All right, the Browns at the Vikings. JP, I'll let you start here. The Browns, they're a 2-point favorite. This over/under is 51.5. I will tell you this is one of my best bets of the week. Go ahead.
Scares the hell out of me. So I have this issue where I cannot pick the Vikings game correctly to save my life.
So pick them to not cover and then they'll win.
Right. So I had Vikings +2 on my card and I regret it immensely. So I'm definitely going to switch to Browns -2. All the reasons to take Vikings +2 are the offenses look good. The defense didn't look bad last week other than the first drive. I think we have the linebackers that can contain Chunt for the Browns, and I don't think Mayfield's going to throw all over us. So I love Vikings +2, and I'll be changing my card to take the Browns -2.
Kyle.
Yeah, I'm going Cleveland -2 here. I think the Vikings are once again a team that I've picked against every single week, but I'm gonna keep doing it here. I'm gonna go Cleveland -2, like we talked about at the beginning. I think they're at least fringe top 5 team in the AFC, so I'm gonna stick with them here.
So, JP, before I go into it, what are your thoughts on the total?
Does Cleveland have? I mean, that seems high to me.
The total?
it seems like a high total, which makes me think, does Cleveland, I mean, high in comparison to the rest of the games, not high for the Vikings games. So does Cleveland have a defense that I don't know about? I didn't think of them as having a defense.
They've got a defensive line.
Yes.
And they
Right,
come
that's
after you.
That's not going to help us.
Right.
Because we do not have an offensive line.
Correct.
The Browns are going to score. We don't have any secondary. So I don't know.
So here's what I like. I like the under in this game. Mentioned it. The Browns defensive line getting after the Vikings offensive line. That's the struggle of the Vikings. They're decent at the quarterback position. Even if Dalvin's out, they're decent at the running back position. Obviously, we know they've got receivers. They've got tight ends now, especially with using Conklin a bunch. So they've got everywhere except for the offensive line. That's where they struggle. That's where Cleveland gets after you. We've seen what they did. Myles Garrett last week, 4.5 sacks. I mean, this Browns team gets after you. But the other reason I like this under, the Browns, they like to run the ball. They want to run the ball. Let's run some clock down. Let's some of these long drives, especially when they know how, even if they can get after the Vikings in terms of from the defensive line against their offensive line, they still have Thielen. They still have Jefferson. They still have Osborne. They still have these guys that can make plays at any second. And we saw it against the Chiefs. We've seen it when they play the Ravens. The Browns like to run the ball, like to run some clock. I think this is even maybe a first half under. I think that's a good bet as well. But one of my best bets for the week, maybe my favorite bet of the week, is this Browns Vikings under 51.5. All right, Kyle. We've reached that time. The Giants are at the Saints. The Saints are an 8-point favorite. This over under is 43. Tell me why the Giants are winning this game outright.
Well, yeah, I'm not gonna tell you why, because it's probably not gonna happen. But yeah, we've talked about the Giants issues plenty in this podcast so far. I don't think I need to wallow in my misery here anymore. Not gonna pick a side here. Gonna go back to what I was doing at the beginning of the year before the Washington Giants games killed that. I'm gonna go the under. I'm gonna go the under here, and it's a best bet of mine. It's set at 43. So under 43, I just don't think, even with Daniel Jones playing good, I just don't think the Giants can put up enough points on the Saints here.
JP.
Yeah, like you said, the Giants unders are 2-0 if you throw out the ridiculous Washington football team game. I'm going to do the same thing. It's by trend. It's also going to be a regression week for Winston. So that would lead me to believe he's going to throw 2 or 3 interceptions, which should benefit Kyle. And I don't know how both these teams are going to score 43.
I mean, you guys know me. We go to a party in the river. There's a bunch of rafts. There's everyone, and there's that one raft by itself. And I'm the one that's going to go and belly flop right the fuck on that raft. And that's exactly what I'm doing this week. Give me the Giants +8. I think there's a chance the Giants win this game outright. I think this is just one of those games where the Giants have no business being in this game, no business winning this game. We'll get into this in DFS later. Depending on who plays, this might be a statement game for Kadarius Toney. He's been talking a lot of shit on Twitter. This might be a time for him to be like, you know what? It's my time on the field. And if they don't want me here, I'm going to go show another team that they can come get me, and I can be valuable for them. I do like the under if I was leaning the total. I'm not going to make it a best bet because they are still the Giants at the end of the day. But I do like the Giants. And like I said, I think they have a chance to win this game outright. This is an interesting stat that I have for you. Jameis Winston has 7 touchdowns through 3 games. Hasn't thrown for 150 yards yet.
Jesus Christ, what?
Yep. He's thrown for 148, 111, 128. And he's got 5 touchdowns first week, none second week, 2 last week.
How many picks does he have total?
He's got 7 touchdowns, 2 interceptions.
And both of them were against Carolina?
No, both of them were against Carolina. That was week 2, right? Yeah, both of them against Carolina. Yep.
So yeah, I'd still predict 2 or 3 this week.
Yeah.
I don't know who he's going to throw him to. I don't know who's in the Giants secondary, but
probably Bradbury. Bradbury will just come from out of nowhere, and that's what he'll do. It'll be like, oh, there's that one guy on the Giants defense that's good now that Blake Martinez is out. So yeah, I'm going to take the Giants. I'm going to take them with the points. And like I said, I think they have got a chance to potentially win this game outright. But they also could lose by 4 touchdowns because they're the Giants. Tennessee at the Jets, JP. The Tennessee Titans, they're an 8-point favorite. This over-under is 45. 2 teams going in opposite directions. Titans, after week 1, finally started to look like a decent football team. The Jets, kind of, as Dennis Green once said, they are who we thought they were.
Yeah, I'm back on the Titans bandwagon. Again, my preseason AFC South pick. Give me the Titans and the points. They actually look like a good team again, which is really nice to see. Still
nice
like
for who?
Me, fantasy.
Like
Give me a little
Vikings
less.
fan. It's like, oh, it's good to see the Titans playing well.
Well, yeah, when I picked them,
That's fair.
I still want to see Julio getting more touches for my fantasy purposes. But I there's no reason that the Jets should cover this game.
If you had to take a receiver, age included, only one of them is it AJ Brown or Julio?
Are they both healthy at the time?
Yeah, you're getting it for the rest of the
AJ Brown might not play this week.
I'm not saying for this week. I'm saying just like going forward as like a career starter, like where they are in their careers right now. You've got an open franchise. You got one of those Madden franchises. Which one are you drafting first?
Isn't Julio like 35?
He's not that old.
How old is he?
Not. He just let me I'll pull it up.
Give
Julio.
me AJ Brown. I'll just skip there. That
Julio's
guy's
32.
Yeah, I'm taking AJ Brown, but that's not because
I'm not saying I necessarily disagree, but I mean Julio is a top 3 receiver of this era, right?
Yeah, I think he is, but if we're going from right now, I don't even know if he's going to keep gelling with Tannehill. I need to see that. I know Tannehill loves AJ Brown.
You didn't understand the question. That's all right.
I don't care. Give me AJ Brown.
He said, "Who would you rather? Just you're drafting your own franchise, like not
I know.
No Tannehill."
I understood the question. I'm choosing to
but
interpret it how
I
I see
agree
fit.
with you guys in terms of the age, but I think if you're looking at like, okay, I'm starting a franchise and like who gives me the best chance to win a Super Bowl in the next 3 years, I still think it's Julio. I agree, and you'll never. You know me. I'm AJ Brown, wide receiver 1 every single week. I think he's awesome, but I just think Julio still, when he's healthy, he's still shown. I mean, the catch in the end zone 2 weeks ago that wasn't a touchdown. I mean, that was classic Julio. It was a classic touchdown. I think he's still at that next level. But we've even seen it with DK pricing, like AJ Brown higher than Julio. It's just in general, I think it is like what you said in terms of the age. Kyle, what are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I'm along the same lines as JP here. The Jets are atrocious. We talked about it at the top. Both New York teams might be the worst teams in football at this point, and the Titans are looking great. I mean, they're starting to hum here, so I'm going to go Tennessee -8. A lot of points on the road, but got to take it, I feel like.
I'm going to take the over. And I know the Jets' offense has struggled, but I think, once again, this is one of those potential get-right games. The Jets aren't just going to knock a score touchdown for the rest of the year. Like, that's just not how football works. That's just whatever. You're getting a Titans total at 45. That's super low for the Titans. We've seen them in the mid-50s. Obviously, playing teams like Seattle help, because the other team's going to built in to score X amount of points with it too. But I just think this total is too low for a Tennessee game. I think Tennessee could put up, 30, 35 points, and Jets put up a touchdown, a couple field goals, or even 2 touchdowns. I just think this is a game that they could easily hit this over. I just think it's too low for a Tennessee game. I think this is more built towards this is a Jets game, not a Tennessee game.
I'm waiting for next week for that Jets bounce back game. I'm looking at their schedule right now. They have the Falcons in London. But
see, that London always scares me. Like, maybe if they get it somewhat right this week, it continues next week. But that's one of those, like, which is a weird trip where maybe it's not. But but obviously playing the Falcons, that is always a get right game, except for when the Giants play them.
Yeah, or the Falcons get a win this week, and then they get a win against the Jets that week, and then they're 3-0 in their last 3, and they're 3-2.
And then all of a sudden, Kyle's talking to me about, remember when the Giants lost to the Falcons? Turns out the Falcons aren't that bad. It's like, yeah, well, the Giants are still 0-6.
Yeah, and they wouldn't have played anybody at that point with their 3 wins. I mean,
all right, so yeah, I'll take the over in that game. Kyle, Kansas City at Philadelphia. Kansas City is a 7-point favorite. That over under is 54. We saw the Eagles get dismantled by the Cowboys on Monday night. What are your thoughts here on this game?
Why can I not get off the Chiefs? They never cover. but I just keep doing it every week for pod picks, and I'm going to keep doing it this week. I think this week we do see that bounce back game finally. I see what you're doing there.
That's why you can't get off the Chiefs.
I can't get off of them. I'm going to go there again. I'm going to go Chiefs -7. I just think the Eagles look like a disaster on Monday Night Football, and I think that continues through this week with the Chiefs.
JP, I'll get to you in a second, but I'm going to tell Kyle I'm going to be on the Eagles this week, and the only reason Chiefs are 1-11 against the spread the last 12 weeks. Stats are stats for a reason. You keep losing betting the Chiefs. I keep winning betting against the Chiefs. So once again, that is what I'm going to do. From a football standpoint, I think the Chiefs win this game by 3 touchdowns, but it's betting, and there's stats for a reason, and there's trends for a reason. So that's why I am taking the Philadelphia Eagles +7 this week. JP, what are your thoughts?
Spread seems low here. 7 points, Chiefs. The Eagles absolutely suck. That was a terrible NFC East pick.
I love it.
So it makes no sense why the spread is 7 to me. I fought long and hard with myself whether I was going to take the over or the Eagles here. I'm going to go over 54. It's going to be one of my best bets this week. If I had to only bet one thing, I'd probably consider doing a teaser. The Eagles plus 14 or 13.
Yeah, it's been at 7-point teaser plus 14 and
plus 14 and the over 47. It'd be a nice teaser for me, but as far as the pod goes, over 54 best bet.
All right, let's go. Cardinals at the Rams, both 3-0. The Rams are a 4-point favorite. This over/under is 55.5. I think this line actually was a little higher to start, and I like the Cardinals if they were 6-point dogs. At 4, it's putting it a little closer. Although I do think the Cardinals have a chance to win this game. I'm gonna go over my thoughts here first, and I'll get on to you guys. I think when you look at it, this over/under of 55.5. It seems very high, but I think it's very high for a reason. So I'm going to take the over on this game. My lean in terms of the side was the Cardinals +4, and that was almost my bet. I'm not going to make any best bets on this game, although I kind of do like them both. But as JP mentioned for the last game, I like it. Once again, you could do a teaser on this game. I think you tease the Cardinals up to 11 and tease this over down to, 48.5, something like that. I think that's a good teaser. But for the pod this week, I'm going to go officially the Rams Cardinals over 55.5. Kyle, what are your thoughts?
I'm really looking forward to this football game. That's my first thought here. Going to be a lot of points, as you mentioned. That's not my official bet here, the over, but I would definitely lean it. Pissed that it's in that 405 regional instead of a primetime game, but there's a primetime game this week. When
you watch games like this, do you think why can't this is a different sport than what the Giants are playing?
Yes, it's an entirely.
I do it all the time, especially in baseball, with the Orioles. Sometimes it's and when the Ravens have been bad, it's just even Maryland was the best example. Maryland used to go when we were really bad and we would lose 60-0 to Penn State or Ohio State. It's they're playing a different sport than we are. I don't know what sport we're playing, but we are not playing the fucking same sport that they're playing right now. They're moving 100 times faster. They're smarter. They're bigger. They're faster. I mean, these got to be two of the top teams in the NFC West.
Yeah, I mean the records speak for themselves. There, they are the two top teams in the NFC West right now. But we know that region could go any way. You got 4 really, really good football teams in that division. But I think they're the best team in football. They've impressed me every week at this point, especially last week. I'm gonna go Rams -4, and it's the best bet of mine.
Here's a question for you. Would you rather have Kyler Murray with Sean McVay, or would you rather have Matt Stafford with Cliff Kingsbury?
It's actually a really good question. Wow. I'm leaning Stafford with Kingsbury, but
it's close.
It's definitely it's a really good close question there.
JP?
As far as that question goes, it's kind of hot to think of what Sean McVay would do with Kyler Murray with his legs. That would be awesome. I'm opposite Kyle here. I'm on the Cardinals +4. I like the Cardinals. I'm going to continue to like the Cardinals. I love the Rams this year, but I think the Cardinals can keep it close here. Hopkins got to get more involved in the game again. for fantasy purposes as well. So I'm going to go with the Cardinals +4 here. Hopefully he doesn't get too much Jalen Ramsey this week.
Jalen's not one of those guys that normally shadows guys. He's normally on the right side of the field, so I wouldn't be necessarily as worried about that if they're going to move DeAndre around. All right, let's get on to the other two teams. All the NFC West, they're playing each other. Did I say the NFC West?
Yes, you
did.
The
NFC West. I thought I said the AFC West. The NFC West, they're all playing each other this week. Obviously, the Rams are playing the Cardinals. The next game, the Seahawks are at the 49ers. JP, the 49ers, they're a 3-point favorite. This over-under is 51.5. What are your thoughts?
I think it's a get-right spot for the Seahawks. 49ers were out of that game with the Packers the entire way, and they made it close at the end. You could argue that the refs helped a little. Seahawks were in control in the first quarter last week and then went downhill from there. I think the offense has to get right. They did not have any offense in the second half last week, so maybe I should lean Seahawks money line in the first half because they don't play second halves. Have you seen the stats on their points versus first half, second half?
No, but I've just from watching can tell you that it's not good.
First half, they have 62 points this year in their 3 games, and I want to say in the second half they have 13.
Jesus.
In 3 games.
Which is not what you expect out of a Russell Wilson team.
No, it's not. So maybe Seahawks first half money line. It should be a best bet, but I'm going to lean Seahawks +3 here. I think they win this game.
Kyle.
Yeah, I'm on Seahawks +3 here as well. I think it's a bounce back game for them. We all need to make a petition as a pod and a listener group here that every NFC West matchup should be on primetime television because it sucks that both of these are in the 405 regional window because I would like to watch them in full instead of just watching them on Red Zone. But yeah, I'm gonna go Seattle +3 here. Gonna be another thrilling game. Gonna be another barn burner out west. I do think it's a bounce back spot for them. They're going to figure out how to play it in second halves eventually here. So maybe it's today. I'm going to take the points.
I'm going to be with you guys, but it's not going to be my official pick because once again, this is a game I have 2 best bets. My official pick for the pod, JP brought up about the Seahawks in that second half. I'm going to take the under of this game. I think this total's too high. I think we're looking at 2 teams that their defenses aren't great. San Francisco's obviously got a better defense than Seattle does, at least in terms of what we're looking at right now. I just think this number's too high when you're looking at 51.5. So I'm going to take the under for that. It's going to be a best bet, and I'm also going to take the Seahawks +3 as a best bet as well. But my official pick, since we're only doing 1 per game, is going to be that under 51.5. It was going to be the Seahawks +3, but I'm going to differentiate from the 2 of you so we're not all in the same thing.
I'm stunned that you're taking the under in a game with the worst defense in the league.
It's like San Francisco is also one of those teams where it just feels like they're more of like a run it, kill some clock. Like let's not,
Let's not throw to Kittle for big plays.
Well, and we'll get into this in DFS because I do like Kittle this week in DFS, but like I just said, I think these are 2. They're not great defenses, especially like you said with Seattle's, but just there's still going to be those random games where the Seahawks defense shows up and plays like the old Seahawks defense. I think this could just be one of those games. I don't think it's necessarily like an easy under, but I think this is a game that Seattle maybe wins 24-20, 27-24, 27, like something like that. I think you're kind of somewhat in that range. I think it is close, but I do like the under here, and I like the Seahawks +3. All right, the Ravens are at the Broncos. This is.
We don't need to spend a lot of time on this game.
This is my worst nightmare. These are my Ravens versus my Teddy, and it's like what do I do? I'll tell you what I'm going to do afterwards. Kyle, I'll start with you. The Broncos, they're a 1-point favorite, so it's basically virtually a pick 'em. This over under is 44.5. Give me your thoughts.
Yeah, I've bet against the Teddy train every week here, and I'm regretting it. So I think I got to.
You're just not a stats guy. You bet on the Chiefs when they don't cover every week. Teddy covers every week. You refuse to bet on him. You're just the opposite of stats.
Hey, you didn't let me get to it. He's not going to cover this week because I'm going to be on him. I got to ride the Teddy stat at this point. I think the Ravens are the better football team and should probably win this game. but it's impossible to bet against Teddy Bridgewater on the spread at this point, especially at home.
JP?
Don't say especially at home. He's better on the road, Kyle. We've talked about this stat for 4 weeks now. Broncos -1. It's the best bet. Ryan, if you don't bet on the fucking Broncos here.
All right, JP. So let's go through the math. We've done this every week. So at the beginning of the season,
All right, good.
he was 35-14 against the spread in his career. Covered week 1. So what would that make him?
I wasn't listening. You said 35-14?
Yeah, he's 35-14.
So he's 36-14.
Kyle, don't worry. You'll have your chance. JP, week 2, they covered. They're 37-14. And now, Kyle, if they covered in week 3, that would make him what?
38-14.
38-14. That means he covers the spread 75% of the time. 3 out of every 4 games. This is the one he doesn't. This is the one out of the first 4 games that he doesn't. The Ravens +1. Give it to me. I found a reason that I don't have to bet on Teddy this week because he covers 75% of the games. That means he loses 1 out of every 4. He's covered the first 3. This is the one that he's gonna lose. Ravens +1. Didn't see that one coming, did you?
You're the worst.
Didn't see that one coming, did you?
I kind of did because it was the Ravens, but you gave me an actual stat there.
I was going to say, right, you thought if I was going to, it was just going to be like, I got to pick one as pick the Ravens. I actually came up with a stat for that.
How can you root against him?
Because he's playing my team. It's the only time I will root against Teddy.
That's all right. Give him one.
All right, let's go Pittsburgh at Green Bay. The Green Bay Packers, they're a 6.5-point favorite. That over-under is 46. JP, I'll start with you since you're such a big Packers fan.
I hate them with a passion. I hate Aaron Rodgers with a passion.
They both hate you too.
Yes, they do. They've made that clear. When the Niners scored and went ahead, I said he's going to do it. And in our Discord, Ryan said there's no way that they left him too much time. And I said he's going to make a field goal and win this game.
That was also me trying to reverse jinx the Packers.
Yeah, I'm sure it was. Packers -6.5. The Steelers are not good. They're just not. And there's no reason to consider betting on them here. They're less than a touchdown against the Packers, and we're in Green Bay. I'm going to go with the Packers.
Kyle.
Same. I mean, you're giving me less than a touchdown on Aaron Rodgers against this Steelers team that's just not very good. I mean, they haven't really shown much. They caught Buffalo on an off day in week 1, and then since then losses to Vegas and the Bengals at home. What makes you believe they could cover a 6.5-point spread against Aaron Rodgers here? So I'm gonna go Green Bay -6.5.
This is just one of those games where, once again, it seems like 2 teams going in opposite directions. Packers finally gotten right. Steelers kind of going in a different direction. I just think it's too many points. I'm going to take the Steelers +6.5. I don't love it. It's going to be my official pick for the week for the pod, but it's not going to be a best bet. It's not going to probably be an actual bet. I think you could probably tease that up and tease it with something else. But for the pod, I'll go Steelers +6.5. I don't love it. I think this line's kind of right, maybe a little too high. But once again, when you're looking at the difference between 5, 5.5, 4.5, there's really not that much of a difference. So it's once you get to 6, 6.5, that's kind of the difference because you're getting towards the touchdown. So I'll take the Steelers +6.5. Don't love it, but that's my lean for this game.
Wouldn't hate the Naji Harris receptions prop there. Let's see how many checkdowns Big Ben throws to Naji again.
Yep, definitely. Tampa Bay at New England. Tampa Bay is -7. This over-under is 49. Kyle, Tom Brady returns to New England. I mean, what happens? Tell me what happens.
I mean, I just pulled up the public numbers here. 96% on Tampa right now. I mean, the lines moved 1.5 points from open, but it really hasn't moved much since Sunday, I would say. It's been 7 points ever since. I have to go New England here. I think it's too many points at home, and what's going to be a super emotional game all around for everybody involved. I mean, I'm taking New England +7. It's one of my best bets of the week, pretty much because I'm fading the public here. It's just way too much, too much love for them.
Kyle is fading the public. He has really grown as a person over the course of this podcast. I'm going to do the opposite. I'm on the Bucks -7. I would like the public to continue betting them, so they bet it down to 6.5. That would be fantastic.
It would be 7.5 if they kept betting them.
True. So stop betting them. 6.5. I'm going to look at Brady's touchdowns prop, and I'm going to look at Gronk anytime touchdown prop. That's what I'm going to do.
This is just one of those. It's a Belichick at home game. It's just a game. Belichick at home. Tom Brady's coming back. Tom Brady just won the Super Bowl. It just seems like one of those games that Bill Belichick has his guys right. The Bucks have had a couple stinkers, not this year, but just in terms of throughout their Super Bowl year. They kind of got hot towards the end of the year, but they had a couple games throughout the year. I don't think it's necessarily going to be a stinker because it's a Sunday night game. It's a get-up game, and there's all the hype of Brady returning to New England. I just think it's too many points. I just think the Patriots find a way to cover a touchdown. Maybe this is one of those games the Patriots are never really in it, and they score something late and backdoor it and loses the game by 5 or 6 or something. But this is just too many points for an important spot for Belichick at home, even though obviously the Bucs are the much better team right now.
What a dramatic commercial they made for this game. It's one of the best.
Great. And the best part, I know I put this in the Discord, the best part was Al Michaels during the Sunday night game. He's like, who would have thought Adele wrote a song for Tom Brady and Bill Belichick? Just like, and the funniest thing is that that he was joking, but he's close enough to like kind of out of the loop where like he might have thought that Adele wrote hello for Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. Because it was literally like when you looked at the commercial, it was literally so perfect. Like when you're talking about going to the other side and they switched Brady for the Patriots to the Bucks and just going like the lines were just perfect. You knew he was kidding, but he was like if that was Brent Musburger, I wouldn't be shocked if Brent Musburger thought that Adele wrote. Like Al Michaels is kind of right on the edge of that. Like he might have thought that. That's almost what makes that quote perfect. But yeah, I mean, what a great Sunday night game. We've actually had some good Sunday night games this season for the most part. All right, final game of the week. The Las Vegas Raiders. They're at the Los Angeles Chargers. JP, I'll start with you. The Chargers, they're a 3.5 point favorite. That over-under is 52.
So we now believe in the Chargers again because they beat the Chiefs because Mahomes threw some bad interceptions.
Correct.
So I'm not going to be doing that. I'm going to roll with the Raiders plus 3.5 here on the road. I like to be getting a field goal. I like the extra hook there. Raiders have covered every week, no? Or not against the Dolphins.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think they keep rolling here. I think they win this game outright.
Whoa,
Kyle?
What happened there? A video just came on, but yeah, I'm with JP here. I think it's an overcorrection on last week. I think this line should be closer to a pick 'em. I mean, it's an overcorrection based on obviously the Chargers beat the Chiefs outright, who I keep picking on this pod for some reason to cover. But I'm gonna go the 3.5. I'm gonna take the hook on the Raiders here.
I just think last week was a stepping stone for Herbert and the Chargers. I think this is a good line. I think it's the right line. I think maybe it is a slight overreaction to what happened last week. I think the Chargers win this game, and I think they win it by more than a field goal. I think it means it covers the 3.5. It's not a best bet. It's not sure if it's going to be an official bet when it comes down to it on Monday night. I'm sure I'll probably have something on because it's Monday night. But I like the Chargers here. I think last week was a big stepping stone for them. I think, like JP said, it does help that Mahomes threw a couple bad interceptions. But those are the kind of things that you need to win those kind of games and just kind of get that mind right, get the momentum going. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, you won the game. They're not going to look back and say how they won the game. They'll go through the film study, obviously, and how can they get better and all of that. But at the end of the day, you won the game. You don't care if it's because the other team gave it to you or because you took it. At the end of the day, you won the game, and that's kind of how you're building momentum because wins and losses are what are important.
Speaking of stepping stones, that's exactly how I'm treating the standings this week after my 8-8 performance, but I won the week. So it doesn't matter how I won it. You guys were below 500 last week. Just got to keep focusing, keep grinding. We keep winning weeks.
So let's go over the season standings for our bets. I am 24-23, 5-1 on best bets. Kyle, you are 21-26, you're 4-6 on best bets. JP, you're 18-29, you are 3-6 on best bets. So yeah, you can be the Jets. Keep plugging away, and you'll get a couple wins here and there. That's the goal. I've gotten some DMs, people asking for some DFS stuff and some DK stuff. On Wednesday, it's obviously you're still guessing on some injury stuff, and it's not as easy. But just a first glance through this slate, I'm just going to give you guys a couple guys that stuck out to me on DraftKings. I know it sounds gross, but Justin Fields versus Detroit, he's $5,200. He's always going to have that rushing upside. If he's the guy that starts and he's the guy that plays, I think that's a decent play. Jalen Hurts versus Kansas City. He scored the third most points this year. Obviously hasn't looked great as a fantasy quarterback, but once again, he provides some of that rushing upside. The Chiefs are a defense that, as long as you kind of can move the pocket a little bit, which hopefully Philly will do because Kansas City can somewhat get after the pass rusher a little bit, or after the quarterback, I should say. I think Jalen Hurts is in a decent spot. If you play him, you could just play him naked, play him, with no other running backs or receivers. I think you just play him by himself. And then we talked about it, Sam Darnold, he's $6K versus Dallas. I think that's a good spot for Darnold. When you're looking at some running backs, I think this is a week where you're going to pay up for running backs. Derrick Henry versus the Jets, he's 8,800. It's a perfect spot as the Titans is a big favorite. Derrick Henry against a team that, doesn't love to tackle. That's always a good spot. Alvin Kumar against the Giants, he's 8,400. I think that's a good spot as well. We're going to see without Blake Martinez, that middle of that defense is going to be a little more susceptible. He hasn't been getting as many checkdowns consistently under Jameis that he has under Drew Brees or even did under Taysom. But I think that there is some upside for it, and he always has that receiving value. Even if he has one or two catches, he's one of those guys that can always take it to the house. JP brought it up earlier with the prop for Naji Harris. I think Naji Harris, he's against Green Bay at 6,800. I think that's some good value just because of the volume he gets. I think he'll be popular because Green Bay's not the defense that they don't have the defense to match the offense, I guess I should say. They're starting to get a little better. They're starting to play a little better, but in crunch time, they still haven't been great. So I think Naji Harris, especially if you're thinking the Steelers are going to be down, like JP said, that over on like screen passes to the flats, dump downs, whatever you want to call them. I think that could be for the case. And then Chuba Hubbard versus Dallas, 5,900. I talked about Darnold. I think Chuba Hubbard's a guy you can play with Darnold. I just think there's some value there. Getting the receivers, talked about Darnold, Chuba Hubbard, Robbie Anderson, DJ Moore. Obviously, DJ Moore, he's been the guy this year. He's 6,600. I see no reason why you wouldn't want to play him this week. The only reason is Trayvon Diggs. Diggs has looked good for the Cowboys, but once again, not necessarily one of those guys that's going to follow guys around the field. And at some point, Robbie Anderson's going to get right. He's 5,100. He's $1,400 less than DJ, or $1,500 less than DJ Moore. I just think you're going to keep getting him for low ownerships. And Robbie's one of those guys that, because he's that deep field threat, he always has that chance to pop off. He could have 4 catches for 130 yards and 2 touchdowns. So I think Robbie's a good play in tournaments this week. We talked about it earlier with the Giants, Kadarius Toney. He's 3,300. It's gross. I hate it. But a guy on a mission that's trying to prove something, and he's super cheap at the receiver, which if you're going to pay up for running backs, obviously paying down at receiver, that's what you're going to have to do. We talked about how gross Justin Fields is. Even worse is playing Darnell Mooney with him, which is what I think you can potentially do. It's one of those where I think you could play Mooney without Justin Fields. You could play Fields without Mooney, or you could play them together. Not one of my necessarily favorite plays, but I think they're both at some good value because Mooney, he's 3,900. And then everyone saw CeeDee Lamb go off against Philly last week, which means everyone's going to play CeeDee Lamb, which means when I'm playing the Panthers, I'll have some CeeDee Lamb, but I like running it back with Amari Cooper. He's $6,000 at the end of the day. Amari Cooper is still Amari Cooper. I think it's a contrarian spot. I think he'll be popular for sure, but I think CeeDee is going to be the guy that's going to be more popular, even Cedric Wilson. I'm assuming Gallup is still out, right? I think that's been a multi-week injury. I think he's out.
Still on IR.
Yeah. So I think Cedric Wilson's going to get some looks too as well. But I like Amari Cooper at 6K. I just think that's some good value there. Some tight ends. Tight ends, I usually like to look for some value later in the week. Some guys that maybe free up with some cheap salary. But if you're looking at a couple guys towards the top, George Kittle versus the Seahawks, he's 5,900. There's just enough volume there for the most part that I like that. And then Tyler Higbee, I think you can go back to him against the Cardinals. 4,600 is Tyler Higbee's price. That game I didn't really go over as much, but that's going to be a game I'm going to be heavy on. I'm going to stack a lot. I didn't necessarily want to go through those guys because I think those are just going to be the guys that you'd expect to play. From Arizona, I think you can play Kyler. I like playing Chase Edmonds. James Conner's even an interesting play because he gets all their goal line carries. We saw last year with Chase Edmonds that they give all the goal line carries to Kenyon Drake. This year it's going to James Conner. They just don't give the ball to Chase Edmonds, but I think he's got enough value in between the 20s to get you there if you're going to play him with Kyler. Obviously, DeAndre. We played Christian Kirk last week. I think I'm probably going to go maybe away from Christian Kirk this week because I think people are going to be more popular. I think the Cardinals, that's always a good situation between DeAndre, Rondale Moore, AJ Green, and Christian Kirk. I think you're just going to kind of look to see what – everyone's always going to play DeAndre. DeAndre's always going to be one of the popular because, like we talked about Julio, DeAndre is a top 3 receiver of this generation. He's I remember Darius Butler on Pat McAfee's show. He said there are certain guys that you just, when you stand up across from them and you look at them, it's like that guy's not made of the same thing I am. And that's how I feel when I look at every NFL player. So for an NFL player to look at another NFL player, and Darius Butler said to get 2 guys in the NFL, the 2 receivers that he looks at that are like that, he said it was Julio Jones and it was DeAndre Hopkins. Just these guys that are just so big, they're so strong, they're so fast, they're just so much better than you at everything. DeAndre's obviously going to be one of those guys that's always popular. But between Rondale Moore, AJ Green, Christian Kirk, I think you're just going to kind of look to the guys that are going to be the lesser-owned guys and just hope that's kind of the week that they have. Obviously, with the Rams, Cooper Kupp's been their best receiver all year. You can play Stafford with him for sure. I like going back to Robert Woods, and like I said, I like going back to Tyler Higbee. So I think you can stack that game in a lot of different ways. I like that as well. So those are kind of just some initial DK, DFS plays for this week. But obviously a lot can change. Make sure you guys are obviously following me on Twitter, Gambling DFS Tips on Twitter. I'll have my cheat sheet out like I do either every Saturday night, early Sunday morning. For DraftKings, it's my player pool basically for my 20 max. So it kind of shows you the guys that I'm high on, the guys that I'd play in certain situations. I give you some of the stacks that I'm playing. So that kind of all helps you guys there in terms of that. Obviously, I have my bets that come out Sunday morning. Same kind of stuff every week. We do the live stream every Sunday morning at 11:30 as well on YouTube. Try and do it on Twitter, but it just never stays good on Twitter. So there's no need to drive myself crazy an hour and a half before football starts on a Sunday. So just do it on YouTube. Obviously, it doesn't get as many viewers as we do on Twitter, but when you guys get to it, share it. Just kind of let your friends know about it. And people that are there tell me it's very helpful, and we kind of just talk through a bunch of things. And at the end of the day, I always say your best asset is to know what you don't know. And just there are times and there people bring something up and I'll be like, you know what, I didn't even think of it that way. And I think that's just kind of a good way to kind of look at all this stuff, which is just kind of this pod in general. So I think that kind of wraps it up for us for this week. We went through every single game on the slate. I'm not going to make Kyle talk about the Giants anymore. I'll let JP bask in this Vikings win for probably another 4 days. But it's hopefully that you guys, like I said, we're always open to these suggestions, always open to how we can make this better, what you guys like, what you guys don't like. Obviously, as the 3 of us doing something for the first time together, we're just trying to get that chemistry right and kind of get it right for you guys. But we're always open to suggestions. If there's things you like that we talk about, things we don't talk about that we should talk about, all of that stuff, that all helps us. So wherever you're watching, you can either DM me on Twitter or you can just comment like on the YouTube page. If you're watching this on YouTube, let us know what you like, what you don't like. Like I said before, if you guys just can subscribe to the pod wherever you're listening or to our YouTube channel. And, I'm not even going to say or to our YouTube channel, and to our YouTube channel. It helps us out a lot. And just seeing people following us and seeing people with some feedback and just kind of there's, some motivation in it just to, hey, some people are watching and they're getting some information out of it and we're starting some conversations. And it's kind of what we're trying to do here is, hopefully football is bringing things back to normalcy and hopefully we've got a normal year of football coming up. So like I said, thank you guys as always for listening. On behalf of Kyle, on behalf of JP, I was going to say something clever, but I didn't have anything clever to say. So best of luck this week, guys.
Baylor plus 3.5. That's all you need.
Best of luck, guys. Thank you.
Canes minus 4.5.
Fade both those.